If you're interested in off-grid home design, natural building, and innovative do-it-yourself materials, then don't go anywhere. Because in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you an entertaining and informative discussion I had last year with some truly inspirational professionals in the off-grid building community. I got to share the stage with Aircrete workshop instructor Ignacio Acuna from Domegaia, inspirational Earthship contractor Ron Sciarrillo, founder of Eco Build Lab Kirsten Jacobson, and the Rocky Mountain hemp builders Roland and Eamon, all of which can be seen on the Off-Grid Guru channel. Whether it be a dirt-to-doorknob Earthship tiny house documentary with Ron, a stellar home tour of the Earthship that she built with Kirsten, building low-cost Aircrete domes that look fantastic with Ignacio, or an awesome DIY Hempcrete tutorial with Eamon, each of these individuals have special skills and stories that I think are worth sharing. So I brought them together to answer my questions.
What is a cutting edge or unexplored material or technique? What are you looking to get your hands into? 30 seconds on the clock, Ignacio, let's go.
To share their stories.
I would say Uruguay, where we built the first public school that was an Earthship. We had students from 60 different countries come and learn and build this public primary school, created an entire curriculum for K through 12th grade, where every course, every week, every subject is about off-grid sustainable living, teaching kids these skills for the future.
And to have a few laughs along the way.
Like he was talking about rain the last few days. It's been biblical storms. I'm seeing roof leaks that has provided job security for me for the rest of my life. I don't have to pound tires anymore. All I gotta do is fix roofs.
And apparently roast me.
What are you gonna do? How are you gonna have your channel with no internet?
This is too much.
You are a young man and you need to come into the modern world. What if I told you I was gonna take away your cell phone and give you a landline? So you need to be autonomous, resilient, and independent and modern. Eric, please.
Eric, you're an artist. Why would you want to live in a box? I'm not going to stand for it. Are you going to stand for it, Eric? Because that's basically what you're wanting.
Yes. Roast away.
If you're new to the channel, we've got a lot more inspirational and educational content like this, so consider subscribing. And be sure to click the bell to get notified when new videos are released. Consider sharing this video with a friend. And as always, if you have a question or want to share your story, you can find me in the comments section below. Lastly, if you want to learn more, consider picking up some of the exclusive educational material that we have available on the offgridguru.com, including the new Earthship 101 Beginner's Guide and a buildable paper model Earthship to go with it. Thank you for your support. Enjoy.
I just wanted to quickly introduce how I know everybody here, and then we're going to get into a speed round of questions. Then we're going to go into a Q&A where we're going to get a little bit deeper into some of the special skills and superpowers that these individuals have. And then we're going to open it up for audience questions. So let's see. Well, you're next to me first. So representing Domegaia, I am super excited to have you here, Mr. Ignacio Acuna. Thank you. He wants it to be more about Domegaia, but I mean, geez, come on, look at this man, beautiful man here. So I met Ignacio because I had been told that I should go study with Domegaia and signed up for the workshop that they had in Baja, Mexico. That was in 2019. He really believed in me when I first came down there for the 10-day workshop. I said, look, I don't want 10 days. You need to teach me this. This is going to take time. And so I was actually so blessed to be able to stay with Iggy in Baja for 2 months. And he was able to, in that time, teach me, far above and beyond what I would have learned in just the 10-day workshop. And so now, we are doing other projects together. We just came back from Utah this year, actually, for another amazing 10-day workshop. And I documented the entire thing. So we're going to have that up on the YouTubes as well for everybody to check out. So yeah, you can already see Iggy on the channel right now. We've done a short video covering the Utah builds, and I have some other videos that mention Aircrete. But just briefly, I'm gonna run down the stories here. So, Ron Sciarrillo, man, Ron Sciarrillo. This man is a legend. I don't know if anybody realizes this here, but anyways, Ron, I don't even know what to say about you, dude. These two right here are basically family. Just like Iggy gave me a chance to study Aircrete and live there for a little while and do that. I mean, geez, you two have just done so much for me and for this movement. And I was reflecting on the fact that, if it weren't for some of you who really believed in me early on when I went to the Earthship Academy as a little 18-year-old baby in diapers. Basically, now we're talking 10 years later, I was like, oh, I'm going to do all this awesome stuff. And they're like, yeah, right. All the students say that. They get super inspired, and then they don't do anything. And I remember when I came back and handed you the Earthship model kit, and I said, look, I told you I was going to make a buildable Earthship thing. And he did. So anyways, Ron gave me an opportunity to come back and be a part of his tiny Earthship build and then film it and do it dirt to doorknob. So that was an incredible opportunity because I had been waiting for years to get onto an Earthship crew professionally from dirt to doorknob, everything from start to finish, and learn every single facet of building these things. And you were able to give me the opportunity to do that from your wealth of knowledge, which comes from 15 years of building Earthships with Earthship biotexture, climbing your way up through the ranks to the point where now, you're basically a free man. There's not that many Earthship builders out there, and you're one of them. And it's a real blood, sweat, and tears craft. And so I'm really grateful for people like you who have taken something that takes so much determination and hard work and to continue to do it, even when your body doesn't want to do it anymore, and then to pass the torch on to us, and make these opportunities available. It's been amazing. So for those of you who don't know, Kirsten and Ron were intrinsic in founding the Earthship Academy, where I basically got a start in this industry. So my relationship with Kirsten is special because she knew me, when I was 18 and came out, early on, quite young to the academy, and I had a lot of ideas, and I was always coming and spitballing in the office with her. But we actually came up together with some pretty great ways to share this educational content, and I think our passion for educating people has just grown over the years. And on the YouTube channel, I have some tours of Kirsten's house that she has built on the mesa there in the greater world in Taos, and it's one of my favorite Earthships, and I'm not just saying that, it really is. It's such a beautiful home, and I've stayed in it so many nights and had so many great experiences. But also, we did a great interview explaining what you're working on now, and that's even more interesting to me than what you've done before, because you and I have some big things going ahead in our future here, working on educating people about not just Earthships, but every single other possible facet of what it looks like to take your life from point A to point B in terms of finding that self-sufficiency that you need to live the lifestyle of your dreams, really, And then these two, man, here, oh my God, I called you, and oh geez, this is so funny. So I was like, oh, what was that Hempcrete builder's name? I was like, oh, that's right, it was Eamon. So I'm looking in my phone, I find Eamon. I'm like, oh, he probably won't even remember me. So I call him up, and literally the first thing on the other line I hear, oh yeah, hey Eric, how's it going? Sorry man, I'm building a 400-foot wall right now. I can't talk. Boom, 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 boom. So I don't even know what to say about you. You're just a monster. You're like some kind of Hercules, man. He comes in to do the Hempcrete demo, and he's got, everything. Like the whole Hempcrete demo on the YouTube channel right now, if you watch it, you'll get his energy. You got such a special energy, and the way that you handled working with the kids and involving everybody in that demo was amazing. And here's the thing people don't realize. I've heard your voice, well, not your voice, but your voice, yes, in editing for hours and hours on repeat. So I've spent so much time with you, more than you've spent with me. For every 1 minute we spend together, I have to spend 10 times that in the editing room. Right. So it really feels like I got to spend a lot of time with you, even though we haven't properly, spent time together, right? Yeah. And I really like the way that you went about doing that because, everyone has their special skills, their talents that they can share. Not everyone can translate that into something that's really fun and interactive for everybody and inclusive. And it was really fun to watch you tell the kid as he was smashing his fist into the Hempcrete mix that looked like oatmeal, oh, this looks like oatmeal. And then you were like, no, don't eat that. We'll go get a cookie after if you want something. We'll get a cookie after. Oh, okay, Eamon. All right. So anyways, I just had to get personal for a second to give everybody a little bit of a look into, how I know these individuals. And I'm going to switch over now to the first couple sets of questions here, which is going to be the speed round. So I've told everybody that they have 30 seconds on the clock. Can we get a harsh timekeeper here? Can we get bam, 30 seconds, speed round. I wanted to come up with some fun, compelling, short questions that'll reveal a little information about these individuals without getting super deep just yet. And I'm just going to give an example, okay? Everyone knows you for blank. In my case, it would be everyone knows me from the Off-Grid Guru channel, but my secret superpower is. So in my case, it's storytelling. So, you know, everyone knows me for doing Aircrete domes.
Okay.
In that case.
Domes.
Right.
And my superpower is designing, drafting, imagining alternative lifestyles and also alternative structures. I guess that would be mine.
Oh boy. Okay. So I would say I'm pretty well known in the Earthship world. I started in 2006 as an intern volunteer. It was supposed to be a 30-day program. So 17 years later, here I am. I'm still doing it. So the thing I'm probably best well known for is just having a contagious personality and trying to inspire people to believe in the ability of, you know, getting off the grid and building a, you know, 100% autonomous, self-sufficient home while you're using recycled and natural materials to help the planet at the same time. You know, that's the biggest thing for me is I'm not interested in just my own personal achievements. It's what I leave behind. I love you. Goodbye.
What is your superpower?
That is my superpower.
The contagion.
No, his superpower is organizing. He is a Virgo. He's super organized, and I have never been on a more organized job site. That's it. I gotta say it.
I say it's inspiring people. Ron's superpower is inspiring people and making them feel amazing. Everyone knows me from Earthships, but my secret superpower is transcending that and connecting with people around the world to help people decide what's right for them. You know, Earthships are an amazing product, but they come with a capital E and a lot of other things involved, whereas people need to decide what's right for them, for their budget, for their lifestyle, and their situation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Roland. I'm starting to become more known as the Hempcrete guy, along with Eamon and our company. My talent or my superpower is crunching the numbers and planning and doing all the computer stuff.
Hello, my name's Eamon McNaughton. Everybody around here knows me for the Hempcrete, and I've been doing that for about 2.5 years. Love building. I guess my superpower is probably working with children, and I'm also been a tennis pro for about 30 years. And connecting people. I like seeing people together, trying to make everybody, work together and be one.
Great. Keep it. So, because this question is going to be easy for you, unless you choose a sneaky different answer, which could also be,
Is this still a speed round?
This is still a speed round.
Oh, boy.
Let's go.
Oh, let's go.
Let's go. Okay, I got a good question for you.
Uh-oh.
If you had to pick only one material to save the world, what would it be and why?
Well, that's kind of easy for me. Hemp. Why? Because it's got 40,000 uses. You can drive cars on it. You can make plastics with it. You can make everything with it. I mean, you can build with it. Obviously, you can feed people. You can get people healthy. Hemp has the opportunity to really save the world.
Yeah, I can't really add to that. Hemp is a remarkable plant. Has so many applications. There's really nothing that comes close, I don't think. Sorry.
I would say earth. It's so versatile. You can ram it into tires, you can pour it into bricks, you can dig a hole in the dirt and put a roof on it, you can sculpt with it, you can do floors, you can do walls. It's natural, it feels good on your skin, it's beautiful, it's healthy, it's just an amazing material. I love it. Earth.
I'm glad you said that. Somebody represent Mother Earth. Come on.
Mother Earth.
Let's go.
Yeah, for me, it's all about tires. Hundreds of millions of tires are thrown in landfills, in the ocean, and on playgrounds, and ridiculous use of that byproduct with pounding them. It's a forever building material. It's not going to go anywhere. And then I want to evolve out of ramming tires to doing tire bale construction, which is reasonably common here in Colorado, but I want to bring it to northern New Mexico and start building affordable housing for military veterans.
Nice.
The timer was for Ron, everybody. Sorry.
I would have to say, I'd have to agree with hemp, and I have to agree with earth. Those are, to me, are the two most amazing materials that we have at our access right here. Affordable and low carbon footprint to getting them to your location. I can't think of anything better than that, honestly. And also sand, but that's also that you have to bring in, and we're depleting our sand. So, but definitely earth, definitely hemp. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Okay, I'm not going to ask you why you didn't say Aircrete, but that's because I have another question which is going to lead us into that. All right. So we are the kind of freaks who are like sitting over breakfast or lunch or dinner or working while talking about other materials and other techniques. Literally 24/7, we are talking about these kinds of crazy things. So, and I've been very curious to ask this question of all of you. What is a cutting edge or unexplored material or technique that you are excited to get into so you cannot choose your own specialty? What is a new thing that's either cutting edge or coming up on the horizon, or that you just haven't explored yet? Maybe it's an old technique, super simple, but you just haven't used it yet. What are you looking to get your hands into? 30 seconds on the clock, Ignacio, let's go.
I've been really interested in geotextiles and impregnating geotextiles with cement and making thin shell concrete roofs and shell structures. I've been making bathtubs recently with thin shell concrete, and that is used like a fraction of the cement, and you're able to get some really high strength, especially if you're using a lot of curvaceous geometry.
So in northern New Mexico, our biggest concern, except for this year, has been water. We typically get 8 inches of annual precip. So Mr. Reynolds, my former employer, recycles water 4 ways. I recycle water a 5th way, but I need to get in compliance with the EPA and, just to be able to get approval for being able to treat black water, with water being such a scarcity all over the planet and people complaining about it all the time, by recycling it in an additional way and being able to bring it back in, I think that can have a huge impact on housing.
I want to experiment with 3D printing with Adobe Mud, and there's people that are doing that, but I want to learn everything about it. A lot of 3D printed houses are printed with concrete, but there's ways to print with mud. You have to get more specific about your mix because there's a little more shrinkage with mud mixes than with concrete, but you can scale it really quickly. You have one unit that can build 10 houses at a time, make them passive solar, make them off the grid, and I think it would just be an amazing combination of low-tech and high-tech. Boom.
Bam! Before the bell. Let's go.
Yeah, so very similarly for Hempcrete, also the 3D printing option. The challenge there is getting the consistency, or getting the head to deal with the consistency of Hempcrete, which doesn't have the viscosity that traditional 3D printing would have.
That was very short and sweet. Okay, I'm really excited about combining these practices together, not just using Hempcrete for a whole house, but understanding elevations of a house and what is necessary, and also understanding that Hempcrete may not be good for certain environments and others will be. So recognizing your local area and using the proper materials for that area.
Okay, this one's going to be weird. I don't know if they're all going to have an answer for this, because this is kind of a hard question. But I if you can, just say something stupid. Just make something up. Let's go. Okay, so if you could create a tool to make your life easier, right? And it doesn't just have to be a straightforward tool. Like, if you could create a technology that made your life easier, what would it be? It could be related to building specifically, but could be also something else.
Let me start the timer.
Yeah. Well, also, you make your own tools, so that's why this question's a little unfair, because he literally makes his own tools depending on what application.
I'll go on that real quick. So we actually do make our own tools on the spot all the time, because some don't fit certain nooks and crannies. But I actually did create a certain way of applying Hempcrete that could speed up the process extremely fast. So one person would do a 4x8 section, and it would take them about 6 to 8 hours. And with this machine, it would take about 20 minutes.
Yeah, similarly with Hempcrete, there are already existing spray applicators. Most of them were invented in France, and there are some modifications for the American market, but they don't yet quite work the way we need them to work. So that's the big one.
I would create a electromagnetic interference gun that I could focus on people's homes and disrupt their existing grid lifestyle, so they would have to think about how to use their resources in a more thoughtful way.
Oh my God.
How am I supposed to follow that one?
Did you know you were married to a supervillain?
Yeah, now I do. I don't know, guys. For me, I mean, human energy is the only clean energy. And whenever you're talking about tools, you're talking about embodied energies, pollution, some form of byproduct. That's why I like just a sledgehammer and a tire and a dirt, and I'm building, I'm going at it. I mean, yeah, I agree with, certain pieces of equipment, machinery. I'm a heavy equipment operator. So, I mean, there's quicker ways to put together tire bales and using shotcrete machines and all that to cut down on labor costs. I'm a big fan of that as well. But human energy is the best tool on the planet.
Domegaia, we developed a machine called the Little Dragon, and that helps you make foam in order to inject it into cement and increase the volume of cement by 10 times. So that's a pretty amazing little tool that we made, and we're coming out with a new machine called the Magic Dragon, and that one will mix your cement and inject the foam, so you don't even have to mix it, and that'll be all inclusive, and it'll pump it to wherever you want. We might be able to even create enough pressure to spray it. And another tool that I really would like to invent is a lightsaber.
All right, you heard it, folks. The Magic Dragon. Okay, this one's just for fun for me because I don't know everybody here, and I'm kind of curious what your answer is going to be. If you don't have a top one because you have traveled so much, then pick top 3 exotic locations that have been the best experiences, your best exotic build location experiences. Like, I've gone to Mexico, I told you guys before. Utah recently was really cool, and I've been to Europe. So that's my 3.
At Domegaia, we have workshops all over the world, but we primarily do North America and Central America. The ones that I've really loved is Tulum in Mexico. That was a beautiful workshop. We're actually having a workshop coming up in Tulum that'll be fantastic. It's a beautiful spot. Portugal was probably my favorite. Like, that was just gorgeous. And then what is the other one?
It doesn't
Utah.
matter. Yeah, oh, Utah. Okay.
Utah was amazing.
I was going to say you ran out of time.
So early on in my career, after my internship program, I was sent to England and then France and back to France and then Jamaica and all over. And I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. But we ended up building a music school, language school on Easter Island. And the people that were running the program came to me one day when we had all these necks for the bottles to make the bottle bricks. And I was like, hey, can we send these back to the recycling center? He said, no, this is the final destination for all materials on site. So we had to get really creative and figure out ways of like putting them in the mixer and grinding them down and bringing all the subfloors up and mixing it into concrete. That was really inspirational to me to not create a byproduct from a byproduct. And that lesson was taught to me on that island, and realizing how precious it is to protect that land. And I learned that of all countries I've worked in. I learned that there. That was amazing.
I would say Uruguay, where we built the first public school that was an Earthship. And it was a beautiful experience. We had students from 60 different countries come and learn and build this public primary school, which was oversubscribed. Every parent wanted to send their kids to this amazing school. And now the group we worked with there is scaling that and building public schools in every country in Latin America, which is amazing. And we're hoping to integrate the education designed by Matt Panitz at Long Way Home in Guatemala, who's created an entire curriculum for K through 12th grade, where every course, every week, every subject is about off-grid sustainable living, teaching kids these skills for the future.
So being a relatively new business, Rocky Mountain Hemp Build hasn't built that many homes yet, but my clear number one has to be Crestone, where we are building 2 homes this summer.
In terms of exotic, I would have to say this place right here is one of the most exotic places I've ever been, with the highest frequency on the planet and all the beautiful people here. Another place that we did a little demo was down in Moab. That was pretty cool. But where I've helped build, not Hempcrete, but Sligo. Sligo, Ireland is where my family's from.
Awesome. I was really curious about with you two, and I'm glad that you brought up Crestone, because this is a very interesting place. And as we get into the meat of this conversation, just to warm us up, obviously these questions were fun, but we're here to talk about some serious, real, tangible things here. So we're going to bring it a little bit back down to earth, and I have some questions prepared for everybody. To greater or lesser extent, everyone on this panel knows about Crestone. I've been bringing Ron and Kirsten here. We've been looking at land. I personally own land in the community. We've been looking at developing here for some years. Did you get your land? You got land in the community as well. So we have some community landowners here, the 2 of us. I'm not sure yet, Eamon, did your parcel come through?
We backed out on that, but we're going to get another one. Thanks, Nick.
All right, yeah. So on the panel here, we have 2 current landowners.
Definitely.
Very soon to be residents. 3 landowners and a soon to be. All right, so that means that our gears have been turning, thinking about what we're going to build. And to me, that's the most interesting, because now, as we take this conversation in a more collaborative direction and ask the question, first of all, because not everyone on this panel might even define a home in the same way. And I think I'm actually going to start. You want to start with how do we define a home? No? Amen. Let's go. How do you define a home? What is your idea of a dwelling?
Define a home. A home is a sanctuary. We spend so much time in it. In order to create a true home, I think you have to also recognize, like I said earlier, where you are, how to build in this region. Understand that we have tons of sun here, so use it, especially with elevations and where to put windows, where to put the insulation, where to put the thermal mass. Like I said earlier, combining these materials. I have a dream of building a home, not just of a Hempcrete home, but when you need thermal mass on the south side, you might use the Aircrete. East and west walls could be Hempcrete, and then the north side could be either Earthship or I think straw bale as well, because you need a lot of insulation. But just understanding where you are and using the sun and using the elevations to create a nice space that is warm and comfortable, where you don't have to use a lot of HVAC.
Yeah. Traditional building is a lot about keeping elements out, and so water out, sun out, and therefore trying to create a barrier that's impermeable. And actually, Hempcrete goes counter to that principle. It's actually a semi-permeable membrane as such. It allows moisture to go through, which of course then also regulates temperature. And so that's how I like to think of a structure that it's not actually as rigid as traditional, and that we allow that kind of permeability.
Nice.
I think a home should heat and cool itself completely naturally with no backup systems. I think every home should harvest all of its own water and be designed with water efficiency in mind so that you can use that water by recycling gray water, recycling black water. A home should be independent with its power systems, and not just in the sense of like, okay, I'm going to take my conventional home and slap $60,000 worth of solar panels on it. You need to design efficiency into your building from the get-go so that you can use the fewest number of solar panels, because there's embodied energy with that itself. A home should be something that you could build yourself if possible. I think that's a really beautiful thing, to live in a home that you've built yourself. And it should be healthy to live in and have beautiful, warm spaces and lots of natural light.
And of course, I totally agree with all that, obviously, because we live in the same home. But for me, when I started my career with Earthships, it was the way it made me feel when I walked in. I'm an Italian boy. My family comes from Calabria. We never shook hands. We don't even know. I never knew what a handshake was. We greeted each other with a hug. Unfortunately, with COVID, that kind of dropped off quite a bit, unfortunately. But my home does that for me. When I walk in the door, the laws of physics and thermodynamics are happening automatically with no HVAC systems. I love that. I don't like hearing pumps and things moving, and I like a peaceful, embracing home when I walk in there. That natural light coming from the skylights and through the passive solar windows, the thermal mass, just keeping that temperature exactly where all humans need it to be. I'm pretty low to the floor, so I like that temperature, really comfortable down there. And the other thing about me is, as a contractor for all these years and coming home, you go to work, you bust your butt all day long, and then you come home and you're like, oh, I got to fix this, I got to fix that. I like to build houses that are going to last for centuries. I don't want maintenance, and especially with costs of materials and labor, those things, that mentality needs to end. We need to build housing that is going to last, past my granddaughter's lifestyle. In fact, when I build, I think about my granddaughters living in a home that I'm putting together, not just for me. I don't build houses for selfish reasons. I do it for the future generations, just like the Native Americans do in Taos. They think 7 generations, and I do the same thing. So that's what, to me, housing should be all about.
Nice. Well, a house for me is, I like to think of my body as a house, and I'd like for my house to be thought of as a body. It has lungs, it has a skin, it has a heart, and I believe that I should use that as my model. My body is the model of my house. I agree with everything everyone said here. I believe that a house should be made also with the least amount of energy, carbon footprint as possible. So making materials like extend the material as much as possible. I believe in like this thin shell concrete thing really interests me, because you're using minimal amounts of material to make large spans. But I think that's pretty much it. I could go on and on and on. That's a big question for me,
Of course, yeah, it's a big question. We're gonna dissect it even further now.
Yeah.
So we have some different definitions of what we consider to be a home here, all of which I think are fantastic. The sanctuary idea, absolutely. My idea of off-grid is like outside of this box rather than off-grid. I take it more like outside the box. So I really like the fact that you said the house is like a permeable membrane. It's more like something that breathes, because for me, that's the quality that I would really like to, the way I'd like to influence the world is that I open up the boxes more, and that's one way, right, to bring the outside in. And then, of course, Kirsten, you and I have talked about this so much. It's just a constant philosophical debate. But I guess the home, the body being the home, right? So, everyone has a different idea of what that home represents. And for me, I I don't know what the hell even actually they're talking about here, all this off-grid, fancy schmancy stuff. Why should I care about that? Because to me, all I need is a pre-manufactured box, right? I'll get a lot over here in the chalets, and I'll throw a pre-manufactured box on there with a, heating and cooling system on it, some linoleum floors, some laminate fake wood flooring, and that's what I'm thinking about. So, I was thinking, guys, if you could convince me otherwise, why wouldn't I just get a on-demand delivery home that I could just slap down on my property, connect the water, connect the gas? Why not have the hookups and why not have the bills? Tell me why, please, Eamon. Let's start with you. Because I'm going for it. You got to convince me right now on the stage. I'm going to buy a pre-manufactured house and slap it down. Why would I use any other material?
Do you like being sick, or do you like being healthy?
I love being sick. Keep going.
You love being sick? Okay, well then chew on your walls. Okay, that drywall's delicious. Those VOCs are wonderful. Suck them in, right? So a healthy home is not just for the planet, it's for the people in it. You will see your health last longer. You spend 90% of time indoors, and if you think about like the carpet in your bedroom, right? The walls, the insulations, the VOCs, the paints, you sleep in that all night long, right? Sucking that in. So I'm a big fan of waking up in a house that feels good, that keeps me comfortable, keeps me warm, and I'd say that's it.
So how do you like paying bills?
Bills? Oh man,
your electricity bill, heating bill. If you build it cleverly, you can reduce it by a lot. Specifically, building with Hempcrete, you can, in most cases, get rid of your HVAC system because of what I described earlier about moisture being allowed to escape through the walls. And so, yeah, in the long run, it'll be cheaper. You might pay a little more up front for the quality up front, but in the long run, it'll be cheaper.
You said it yourself, Eric. You're going to buy a box. You're going to live in a box. A box inherently doesn't have anything but maybe some protection from the elements, which in this climate, I don't even know how long that's going to last, with wind, sun, snow, whatever else is going on. You're going to have, when this network of systems that we're completely dependent on has any failure, your box is not going to function. You could die in your box. You could freeze to death in your box. You could have heat stroke in your box. You could have no internet in your box. What are you going to do? How are you going to have your channel with no internet?
This is too much.
You are a young man, and you need to come into the modern world. What if I told you I was going to take away your cell phone and give you a landline to conduct all your business and all your life with a landline phone? You might as well just be home right now, sending a fax, waiting for a phone call. That's what a conventional house is. It is the landline of homes. You need the cell phone of homes. You need to be autonomous, resilient, and independent and modern. Eric, please.
All right. Can I get my tea?
Wow. Okay. I hate following Kirsten.
Use this opportunity to grill me even harder than she did. Let's roast.
Okay. So you're a young entrepreneur. You're a business owner. You've got merchandise. You've got a channel. You're all about subscribers. That's that generation. I don't know much about it, but I hear it's a thing, and maybe it can pay for some things, and all that's great. But for me, as a businessman, I'm thinking about, not only investment in my health, which I agree with 100%. I just celebrated my 56th birthday Wednesday. Eric's birthday's Monday.
Let's go.
Thank you. So, I'm feeling healthy, strong, happy, energized every morning. I mean, that's an investment in my work, in my, and just in my existence as a human, and being able to commit to, helping people. And when you live in a box like he's talking about, throwing down on the ground, that's completely detached from the environment. It's detached from, even his dog is not going to like living in that thing. You know, I mean, you got to think about, you know, the investment in real estate and what's been happening. Look at Crestone, look at Taos. I mean, if we sold our house, we wouldn't be able to buy it back tomorrow. If you throw down some piece of crap with a bunch of utility bills that continue to go up, and with an there was a time when I bought my first house, the gas bill would show up. I lived in Cleveland. The gas bill would show up, and I would look through that little window and squeeze the bill, and if I saw more than 2 digits, I'd toss that thing out so fast. I was like, man, let them shut it off. I can't afford a 3-digit utility bill in 1985. So in 2030, 2035, where's he going to be? Instead of, like we said up here already, make the investment in your home now. It's already too late for most of us. You know, the cost of building materials and all this is out of control. So if you're going to make this investment, you better be wise about your choices.
Yeah, I agree with everything everyone said. Eric, you're an artist. Why would you want to live in a box? I mean, they're ugly. I mean, the quality of life inside these houses that we're talking about is through the roof. They're beautiful. An earthen floor compared to a vinyl floor, there's no comparison. You know, an earthen wall compared to a drywall and acrylic paint, there's no comparison. The way that sound even travels inside an adobe house. If you could sit right next to somebody while someone's making dinner, and you can have an intimate conversation. Sound doesn't vibrate through the house like that. It's efficient, it's warm, it's cozy. It's like being in a blanket, you know. And it's cost effective, as everyone is saying. The price of materials right now, we're being gouged. You know, people are taking full advantage of us, and I'm not going to stand for it. Are you going to stand for it, Eric? Because that's basically what you're wanting.
Yes. Roast away. Okay. So now that I've played devil's advocate, let's talk about some of the options that are available here in Crestone. If we pass the mic back to my man over here with the hemp shirt. So you're thinking about moving to Crestone or some other community, what have you. I mean, let's just broaden the scope a little bit, because there are many regions that have a very similar climate than this. I mean, we're talking about the southwest of the U.S., okay? So this doesn't just apply to Crestone alone. Obviously, not everyone's going to be living here, so don't take it for complete face value here. You know, if you're looking at developing a house that is going to be similar to that of which would encounter the elements and have this type of climate. So let's just say we have this mountainous region here. We have 4 seasons. We've got a harsh winter, right? But we do have sun most of the time during the days. So that's one of the advantages. So I don't need to blabble on about this, because I brought the experts to talk to you about it. But we've all been thinking, and you can get a little crazier if you want. We've all been thinking, first of all, what materials would we choose to build with, and what design in this region? Maybe even houses you've already seen that you were inspired by. I have a whole list of them on my hand, so I can tell you about houses I've seen in Crestone that worked well for some reasons, or not as well for other reasons. And really, you're the man to talk to about this, because this guy is like, you're committed. You're building. What kind of house are you building right now? Let's just talk right now about the house that you're already building.
Right now we're building a mother-in-law suite with a garage. It's about 800 square feet, and yeah, it's going to be beautiful and comfortable. And so the couple that are hired us to do this will be living in that until they build the rest of the home. But right now we're doing that part, and we're very excited about it. So in terms of building here,
in terms of
specifically, I'd say the greatest water is very important. So I think Earthships have absolutely nailed how to use water properly. Use water over and over and capture it, because it doesn't rain here a lot. You would never know that from the past few days, which has made our lives a lot of fun building in the last few days with all this rain, but it doesn't come often. And I'd say the greatest resource we have is this sun. So passive solar design is the single most important thing, I would say, when building your house. Put the windows in the right places and put the insulation and the thermal mass in the right positions with the proper overhangs.
Short and sweet, love it.
Yeah, obviously I'm going to recommend Hempcrete for reasons that I've already discussed some of. But the other main one, especially in this region here, is that the hemp that we build our houses with are grown within 30 miles of here. So they're actually from the valley. And that is incredible because transportation for a lot of other building materials adds to their embodied. Well, some coming from China, Canada. So the more local we can be, the better.
I think you have a lot of options here, like you mentioned, which is amazing. We have a similar situation in Taos. We have a climate that supports different building envelopes that are alternative and sustainable, all different kinds. So you have a lot of choices. You know, Ron and I have talked about what would we do up here, and we talked about doing something that was part Earthship and part some insulative building material, so when we weren't pounding as many tires, maybe pound the first few courses with tires and then do Hempcrete or some other Pumicecrete, something else on top. I think for you, Eric, building here, one of the things you have to consider is time factor. You want to build a house that you and your dad could be in. You don't want to take the next, 20 years of your life to build a super labor-intensive house. So one thing you might consider for here would be Pumicecrete, because you could form it and pour the walls within a day. They can be structural. You can put the beams right on. Like, you could really move into enclosure really quickly, which I think would be a huge advantage for you. There's embodied energy in getting those materials here. It does use some cement, but the forms are reusable. You can form the window and door spaces right in it. You can lay the electrical conduit and the plumbing right in the walls. It's the dream material to plaster on top of, as I mentioned, Hempcrete is as well, because it's so flat yet has a texture. So as opposed to Earthships, where it's all these layers and layers and layers of plastering forever. I'm sure there's clips probably of Ron's last house of me just like in the corner, not talking to anybody, just plastering and plastering and plastering. And so I think with something like Pumicecrete, you could get that, and they work now with varying the thermal mass, and so it's not just insulative. You can make an inner withe of the Pumicecrete that's more dense, that would store more temperature and have the outside be more insulative. I just think because time is a factor for you, that would speed it up and you could start doing the finishes and the systems more quickly.
Great. So almost as fast as putting a box down, I could put Pumicecrete walls up and have my rafters up in a weekend. Yes. Oh, and both the Pumicecrete, which is lava stone, for those who don't know, it's a mixture of lava stone and a binder, like a cement type of glue, that basically you have a truck that pumps all the lava rock, small pebbles of lava rock that's been mixed into forms. And so the whole thing can cure basically in one day and be poured in one day. And it's locally sourced. There's in Alamosa, they have the Red Rock Lava Company, where you can go and buy for landscaping and agricultural purposes, and for the freaks like us who choose to build with it, that purpose. And then also, I don't know if you meant it. Sorry, Ron, but all the hemp they're talking about is grown in the San Luis Valley, guys. This is the biggest win for the natural building community in it's a win for the planet. But first of all, when I heard that you could actually get the raw material that you need to build an entire structure, basically, with local lumber. So with local lumber and then with the Hempcrete, you can basically source everything from within 30-mile radius of here, which to me and to everyone here who has one eye open should be extremely attractive. Sorry, but to continue, Ron.
Okay, so let me just make sure I understand what the question is. What would I recommend based on the Crestone climate, what to build?
Well, I know that you're excited about throwing some tire bale houses down.
I am. The thing that comes to mind with Crestone is it's obviously very remote, and we've seen what's been going on with building materials, transportation costs, and on. And I don't know when that might stabilize, if it will. I think the thing with a location like Crestone, and again, like that island mentality that I've developed when I'm building sustainable housing, it requires talking to locals. It requires talking to the people that have been here for several decades, not, the people that come in and get awestruck by the mountain and the sun and all that, coming from Cleveland like me and a couple of my buddies that are here. And, you got to talk to, the local, sources, like they're saying, you have to take advantage of that. And then when you can collaborate with other builders that have already been here a while, one of the biggest things here is to work as a community and not as an individual. So the problem that most of us have is, in our mentality is we're going to come in and we're going to beat on that ground and we're going to push our will and we're going to make it be what we want it to be. Working for, the guru in New Mexico has taught me one thing is you have to comply. You have to be willing to negotiate. And when it comes to building materials or building designs or envelopes and talking to architects and engineers and local officials, you have to come in with that open-minded, sort of outlook on what it is. Because, like he's saying, he might want to drop a box down. It might not work. The water table might be too low. The annual precip numbers are too low based on the square footage of your roof. Can I get cisterns below ground if I've got basalt, volcanic soil? What am I contending with? Which direction is the water running off the topography of the ground? That's what we call a site evaluation. We do a test hole. And then right there and then, that might tell me whether or not I can do it or I can't do it. How many people I've consulted in my career and they got all these grand ideas of what they want, their dream Earthship, their dream building, and I hate crushing people's dreams. I crush them every day. I love it, man. I love wiping that stupid smile off your face and saying, hey, man, look, let's get to the real world here and find out what works in Crestone, what works in Taos, what works on Easter Island. We've sent Vigas from O'Gean's and Taos to Canada. We took sand to the beach, people. What I'm saying? Like, you gotta be willing to understand what Mother Nature is providing. Keep in mind, everybody understands what climate change is right now. If you're just saying it's a hoax or it's just, some made-up thing that politicians say, I got news for you, man. Like he was talking about rain the last few days. It's been biblical storms. I'm seeing, roof leaks that has provided job security for me for the rest of my life. I don't have to pound tires anymore. All I gotta do is fix roofs. It's amazing, and I make 10 times the money. It's awesome. So it's like, I love this is my third visit to Crestone. I understand the attraction. Taos is called the land of enchantment. We call it the land of entrapment because there is an incredible natural beauty. But again, if you come out here with, I'm not going to mention any states in the United States with that mentality, and you're throwing a bunch of money around, you're going to go through a lot of money. You know how you become a millionaire in Taos? You bring two. You get it? We grab you by your ankles, we turn you upside down, we shake every dime out of your pocket. Crestone is very good at that as well. If you don't come out here and you don't talk to the locals and you don't find out where you source the indigenous materials, anything like we're saying up here, 30 minutes within where that build site is, to tell you the truth, guys, that's what's preventing me from joining the rest of these guys with buying up a bunch of land out here. I'm a reclamation gravel pit developer in the greater world Earthship community. I reclaim scarred land. That's what I do. That's what inspired me to do what I do. And to come to Crestone, I would want to talk to anybody and everybody who's built something and has got some feedback for me, and I'm listening to that advice. So I'm not upside down on this build cost. And another thing, collaborating with other builders, there's always a surplus of excess materials. Starting some sort of a restore thing, probably already have it here, where we can start to make things a little more affordable to truly develop a community like this. This community's been here a long time, and so is ours. And we're maybe 60% of the way done, and that's going to slow down. So there's a lot of things to think about and talk about if you want to talk construction. Oh, you don't have to do that.
Wow, that was great. I just sat back and said everything. Well, I think Ron was definitely hitting the nail on the head. That for me, the first place I look whenever I'm designing for a particular place is I look to the indigenous culture. I look to what they've been using locally. Vernacular architecture for me is the starting place for me, and then I start looking obviously to nature. How is nature moving? What are the resources that nature has to offer in order to bring into my home, to power my home? And obviously Crestone, there's a lot of sun. I'm really interested in digging into the earth and using just the natural thermal mass that it has to provide to create stability in my home, because that's what I want. I want a stable environment. I don't want it to be fluctuating with the heat and the cold. So I look to nature, look to vernacular architecture. My ideal house would be a hybridization of all these different techniques that we're all talking about. I don't believe there's one way of building for all environments. I don't believe that Aircrete's the solution for the world. I don't believe that, I don't believe there's just one way of building. I feel like there's combinations of techniques that we've all been developing, and techniques that have been here for ages, hundreds of years, thousands of years, that people have been using. I recently went to Utah and I met a man who blasted out his house in the side of a mountain, and it was the most stable, beautiful architecture I've ever seen. It blew my mind. All he needed was some dynamite and some diesel fuel. That's it.
Motor oil and the fuse. That was
motor oil and some fuse and a fuse. That's incredible. What he said. It was an absolutely stunning house, and that blew my mind, and it just made me realize we don't need to use all these resources, all these materials that the system is offering us. I think that are toxic to the environment, toxic to us, to the people that live in the houses. When we got this, we're part of the earth. We come from the earth. That's the least toxic material that we own. And I feel like that's what we should be resourcing. But I think a hybrid house, depending on the location that you're at, exactly what Ron said, the location, the altitude, and look to nature. It tells you everything you need to know. So that's it.
You said community, and this community has thankfully embraced me. I've been coming here. There was a long stretch, but I actually came here in 2004 for an all-night meditation from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And in the morning, I drove into town to see what the town looked like, and I was like, oh, that's not much. But there was a sign that said free puppies. So I got my puppy that morning on New Year's Day. And I've been coming here for the last couple of years with the Hempcrete. And I've been here about 30 times plus in the last year and a half, 2 years. And just to call it out, we needed a couple workers. And I just trusted in this place, the space, and community came together. I saw Jaku. I just met him. He's this fantastic worker that's helping us out, and a big thank you to Suzanne Rouge. Not only did she supply our beast of a machine, we don't have a name for it, but I kind of like Roxanne. Sir Mix-a-Lot, there it is. So Suzanne not only helped help us with the mixer, but she's been on site, and she's just a badass. And what I hear about this place is if you're not on the vibration of this place, it will spit you out whether you like it or not. So you can build a home here. You can build your $2.5 million box. And Nick has told me that people have built here and then just left in 3 months because they can't handle it. The vibration here, you have to match it. So community, that's what it's all about.
Yep. Great way to end the main Q&A section with community, because now we're going to be turning to the community. I actually had a little bird pass me a fan question, Jesus. So egotistical. Get this guy with the mustache off the stage. This is a audience question. So we have about a half hour left, and sometimes audience questions, this can be a while, depending, if everybody has something that they want to ask, maybe something even more complicated spurs another discussion. But we're going to kick it off right here. So in a moment, I think we'll do with what we can with the one mic on stage, the corded mic here, and then if anybody has a question, we can pass around that wireless mic into the audience here. But the first question that I had, Ron, please ask about the toxic off-gassing from tires and Earthships.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, we've been hearing that for 50 years. The off-gassing from tires is definitely a legitimate question. We don't ignore that as air quality testing system that we have incorporated for years because, many people have tried to shut down Earthships specific to off-gassing. Our argument about that is if you go into any tire store and you're picking out a set of tires, when you first walk in and you smell that off-gassing, you've been more exposed just in that little bit of time putting your tires on your truck than you will living in this house. I've been in these homes nearly 2 decades. Kirsten's almost 3 decades. We seem pretty normal to you guys. I know I seem a little intense. Maybe there is a little of the off-gassing that's affected me on that. I don't know. Yeah, man, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, man, compared to a little bit of concern about what you guys are asking me to the toxic homes that conventional houses are putting out, we've done air quality tests. We smoke that. When you pound tires and you fill it with earth and then you plaster a couple inches of adobe mud over the front and then you add your skylights and you add your ventilation tubes, and that's a passive system. But if you do an active system, as long as air is moving through any home that you live in, it's not stagnant. It doesn't matter what chemicals you clean with or mop your floor or do your laundry or eat. All that crap is way worse than any concern about off-gassing from tires. There's been plenty of studies done with off-gassing, but when you entomb a tire, we've already done tests that if we set a tire out here in Crestone with the sun beating on it, it would take 2,000 years to fully break it down. And the elements that the planet provides, which is the sun, the wind, and the water, those are the things that break down petroleum products. That's where off-gassing, you're starting to develop, and you smell that. When you entomb them, you plaster them, and you take those 3 elements that the planet destroys all man-made product. I don't care how good you think you are. I mean, stainless steel, any of that.
And oxygen.
It's all, and
when there's no oxygen present, when there's no oxygen present, when there's no sunlight present, when the moisture level is... And also, the tires that we use have already gone on the road.
All these tires have 40, 60, and if you're in Mexico, 150,000 miles on those tires. We were building in Jamaica, and this guy was driving a tractor, and all the radials were popping out of the tires. I was like, man, I think you're due for tires, and we could pound those tires for you if you like. But don't be so concerned about the off-gassing when you've got so many more things on your job. The environment itself, breathing the exhaust from your car, the guy that's parked at the light next to you with his diesel polluter. I'm not going to say that you should not be concerned about the air quality in your home, but I'm here to tell you that that's not enough of a concern.
And I want to say one other thing, which is that let's think about these walls as thermal mass walls. So the thermal mass allows you to stabilize the temperature and to store temperature, both to heat and cool the building via the design with its passive solar or natural ventilation. You don't have to build with tire walls if you want a thermal mass building. There's other ways. There's rammed earth, there's adobe blocks, there's compressed earthen bricks. There's lots of other ways to achieve thermal mass. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Look at the entire system, look at the aesthetic that you want, look at your climate, look at what's gonna work for you, and don't ship the tires if they're not already there. You know, we shipped tires to Easter Island. That was definitely a bummer. Luckily, they made a beautiful building. It's a beautiful music school, but that's not my first choice. Earth bags are another way to build without the tires. So thermal mass walls, passive solar, those are the important things.
Yeah, without the tires. Okay, I'm not going to talk about tires. It's going to take more time. Does anybody else have a question? Well, let's get that going out there.
Hi, I just want to say thank you all for speaking and sharing your hearts and your new perspectives. My question is for the Aircrete, between Aircrete, Hempcrete, and Pumicecrete. What are the benefits between all of those, and like where would you use each of them when building a sustainable home? Thank you.
Oh wait, do you want to keep that and pass it to the next person?
Yeah.
Okay, so where would we build with these different materials? And what are the advantages? Okay, so we are trying to trap carbon. I would say Hempcrete is fantastic for doing that. It literally is putting a carbon filter on your walls. Hempcrete, obviously, like we were talking about, builds locally. Where is pumice? Where do you get your concrete? And how much do you need? So I would say with Hempcrete, obviously we get it 30 miles away. We tried really hard to find local suppliers. And so when we first got together, it was in the beginning of COVID. And so that was a little tough, but our goal was to identify local supply chains. Because our first bags that we got were from Canada, and then we got some from France, and we were shipping binder from France. And so right now we're using a binder, a lime from Austin, Texas, which is a little far for me, but then we get just a couple more materials at your local Home Depot and mix those together. So I would say just wherever it grows, wherever it lives, that's where you'd want to get it. Yep. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, so concrete is pretty much native to the world at this point. You can find it anywhere. It's one of the reasons why we at Domegaia are using concrete still. But there's also alternative materials like magnesium oxide. I don't know if you guys know about magnesium oxide. Please look it up. It's an amazing material. We've been experimenting more with hemp and magnesium oxide, and we're finding our bricks to be like 5 times stronger now. We're still not using magnesium oxide because it's not as readily available, but there are mines around here. So the cool thing about magnesium oxide is that you don't have to heat it to such high temperatures, and you don't have to heat it for as long as you do concrete to make concrete. So please look up magnesium oxide and hemp. That's a great building material as an alternative.
10 minutes left. Okay, so do we have someone else ready with the microphone?
Hi. I was wondering, with your different respective building materials, as these structures age, what kind of repairs and maintenance and maybe like pitfalls do they fall into, these different types of structures?
Can I start with just something about that? So an interesting thing that happens with Hempcrete is that it increases in its strength over time. And we don't have too much time left for the audience questions, so if it's okay, can I explain? Because I understand some of these things. So maintenance over time is always going to be like cracks and plastering on the walls for certain things, in terms of your plasters. So that's just kind of always going to be the case with any material, whether you're covering tires with plaster, Hempcrete with the plaster. Certain materials will keep the plaster without it cracking longer. I would imagine Hempcrete is pretty good because it already has quite a texture to it, as well as the Aircrete finishes that we do. But Aircrete and Hempcrete both have the property of basically being stronger as they age, which is an incredible property that those materials have that others don't. So in terms of the maintenance over time, just the material alone, you're going to have a lot more maintenance in your home with moving parts and mechanical things, you know, like your toilet bowl plunger and your fridge and your stove and your lines, and you know there's going to be so many more things rather than these materials. We're talking about the strongest part of your home here. Everyone here who builds is building with the beefiest, longest lasting, most blown out of the water type of material, rather than going with a stick frame where your literally house is collapsing on you after 30 years. And your roof, of course, the roof, none of these are addressing the roof.
I want to say something about maintenance, because I don't think people really realize. So typical houses right now, contemporary building stick framing, we're using about 17 layers of 17 layers of building materials that are potentials for failure. So a lot of these houses that we're building generally go from 3 to maybe 5 layers. So that is a really important key thing to take into account. You know, like an Adobe house, for instance, has probably like maybe 2 or 3 layers. So that's something to take in consideration. Yes, you do have to plaster sometimes and to maintain it, but if you have nice, long, big eaves, you're gonna get less exposure, you're gonna get less damage.
Yeah, it's a good question. When it comes to maintenance, that pretty much freaks most people out when they're looking to buy into an off-grid house, an existing home. For this panel, it's easy because we're contractors. We build them from ground up, dirt to doorknob, so we understand how everything kind of comes together, the Lego set. The biggest thing when it comes to building anything, I don't care if it's a conventional cracker box or a fully off-grid self-sufficient home, you have to understand how materials work together. And then you also have to understand that certain applications at a certain time is extremely important. Like right now we're dealing with a lot of roof leaks, so I like to call out to my guys, hey, I call it a 40, 70, 72. What that is you don't want your temperature below 40, really much above 70 degrees, and you need about 72 hours of that stable, controlled environment. And that's really hard to do when you're working on tropical islands or during monsoon season. So you've got to be, really aware of the timing of certain product. And if you do that, and as a heavy equipment operator, I can make a mistake very easily by over excavating. And then if my guys come in and 8-pound tires on disturbed earth, I can promise you there will be cracks in that tire wall and that plastering. So if you're not mindful during the process of assembly, then the next homeowner is going to be having a fair amount of problems that pretty much could be avoided.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, you want to engage with your systems. If you just expect to walk into a room and flip the light switch on without having considered, how much power you have in your battery bank, how long it's been sunny, what other things you've been using, then you might be disappointed intermittently. We haven't run out of power at our house, but we're used to living that way and being aware of how to use the power, how to use the water, how to treat the systems correctly, how to clean the filters on the water organizing module, how to clean our really disgusting gray water filter, which is a very basic system coming from our kitchen sink, has a woman's pantyhose stocking strapped to the end of a PVC tube to catch any, and I'm very religious about not letting food particles go down the drain, but still, what you end up with is a turgid, slimy, stinky stocking that needs to be replaced every few months, and that's Ron's job to do that. So thank you, honey, for doing that. But
that's what I'm here for.
And you want to maintain the plants in the gray water cell because they're not just ornamental plants; they're an integral part of your wastewater treatment system. And so some people think, oh, you can just toss a bunch of plants in there, let them go crazy. Well, it gets overgrown. The plants aren't healthy. You need to trim them and treat them with natural materials to keep the bugs off them and get them really thriving and happy, because they'll keep your gray water clean. So I think you have to want to engage with your home. And it's not any more maintenance than a conventional house. It's just a different type of maintenance. And it's fantastic because you feel empowered and self-sufficient, and knowing that the grid's never going to fail on you. You're making your own systems work.
I just have a quick story to tell. Thank you. Very, very quick, yeah. So 1,500 years ago in France, when France was Gaul, they used hemp in a little town in a bridge. That bridge is still standing today. It's the only structure still standing in a raging river. And a fun fact about that bridge is when the Nazis were fleeing, they crossed the bridge and shelled the bridge with their tanks, and it's still standing. So I don't want to say Hempcrete is bomb-proof, but it's pretty strong. Pretty strong. Yeah.
All right. Well, they're trying to kick us off. So if you'd like to ask your question, we'll see if we can answer it quickly.
Okay, real quick, we're in the process of building a earth bag home, and we're a little bit behind schedule. So we came up with this idea as far as the main living area, which would have all of the plumbing and electrical type of stuff in it. Have you had anybody use a modular home and then outskirt the outer shell with the earth bag? And how does that work together?
Well, I will tell you what. I'll make you a deal. These two fine individuals here are actually about to move over to the demo area where they're going to be doing a question and answer over there to continue for everyone who's still jonesing and chomping at the bit to tear down this utopian idea that we've just provided you with. So please challenge us, question us, and right now we're going to be unfortunately getting off the stage, but we're also all going to be available this entire weekend. All of these amazing individuals, give them a round of applause.